Hey everybody, I'm Jordan Garza and welcome to Unredacted. So if you're new to the channel, I just want to say this is Potato, and it would make him and the algorithm very happy if you click that red subscribe button below. I know everyone's always asking for it and it gets pretty annoying, but we're a small channel and it really goes a long way to helping us grow. So anyway, shameless plug aside, let's get on to the news. So while everyone in Florida is bracing for Hurricane Ian, which should be making landfall by the time you see this video, and I hope everyone's doing okay, Europe is bracing for a very dark winter indeed. Now, if you've been following the news, you probably already know what I'm talking about because I'm pretty late to the party on this one. But if you don't, this is the Nord Stream pipeline, which carries natural gas from Russia down into Germany. So basically what happened earlier this week, seismologists in Poland recorded two seismic events followed by a hissing noise on their equipment, which prompted armed forces to go and investigate. And when they got there, what they found is what you're seeing on my screen here. And what this is actually a 1 kilometer, it's basically a kilometer in size of natural gas actually leaking from the Nord Stream pipeline. So a lot of people are saying, at first it was believed as an accident, but as you can see, a lot of people are now believing it was most likely sabotage. Now, the Washington Post is putting European leaders blame Russians for sabotage, but to me that doesn't make a lot of sense because why would you sabotage your own pipeline? In my opinion, I believe the West is actually culpable for what's going on here. Now, you might, and I'm not the only one saying this, a lot of governments and political pundits are also saying the same thing. Now you might think that's a bit of a hyperbolic statement to make, but as you'll see later, I have a video from President Biden which might change your mind. We're going to get into that. Let's just talk about what happened first, and then we'll get on to speculation. So I think this was on Monday or Tuesday that this happened, but so from Berlin, European leaders on Tuesday, they believe dual explosions damaged the pipelines built to carry Russian natural gas from Europe were deliberate, and some officials blame the Kremlin, suggesting the blasts were intended to threat to the continent. The damage was not an immediate impact on the European energy supplies. Russia cut off flow earlier this month, and European countries have been scrambling to build up stockpiles and secure alternative energy sources before that. Again, this is what makes me it doesn't really buy into the whole false flag Russia that did this, because why would you cut off your own pipeline, which you are receiving money for, because they are still sending some gas to Germany, which is what they're missing in this article. But the episode is likely to mark the final end to the Nord Stream pipeline project's more than 2 decades effort deepened Europeans' dependence on Russian natural gas, and many officials now say was a grave strategic mistake. Again, there's actually no proof that Russia or anyone is culpable for this yet. This is all still speculation. So the Washington Post is kind of, they're kind of embellishing the story a little bit, but I mean, this is another thing from the Danish Prime Minister. So again, I'm not the only one believing this. This is most likely sabotage. There are deliberate actions, not an accident, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen told reporters Tuesday. The situation is as serious as it gets. So what you're seeing here on my screen is what I was talking about earlier. This is the actual pipeline. I believe it's somewhere around here that the leak is actually happening. So another thing that I just wanted to bring up, these bubbles that you're seeing here, if a ship were actually to attempt to sail over those bubbles, they're actually not on the water anymore. They're essentially trying to float on natural gas, and they would just drop like a rock. That was just something that I learned from a video I saw earlier. I thought it was interesting. I wanted to bring it up. Frederiksen said the explosives just off the coast of Danish island Bornholm were not as an attack on Denmark, since they took place in international waters, but Danish military leaders on Tuesday dispatched the Absalon, one of their top-of-the-line frigates, along with a patrol of ships to guard the island. Danish Foreign Minister Jip Kofod was calling NATO counterparts to discuss the situation. According to a senior European diplomat who is familiar with the conversations and who was familiar with conversations and who, like others, spoke on condition of anonymity to talk frankly about the internal security. So we do not know the details yet, but we can clearly see this is an act of sabotage, Polish Prime Minister said. The act possibly marks the next stage of escalation in the situation in Ukraine, Morawiecki said. He was speaking to the ceremony to open the new Baltic Pipe undersea pipeline that gives Poland and its neighbors access to Norwegian natural gas. Now, you're seeing that they're unveiling this new pipeline right when this happens, and this is what's causing a lot of people to kind of go, hey, what's going on here, And again, the whole false flag from Russia doesn't make a lot of sense to me. You're not going to rile up your base in support of the war machine because one of your pipelines has been damaged, which actually isn't supplying gas to Russia, so why would that affect the base? That doesn't make sense to me. So this is what's starting to make more sense to me. Tucker Carlson hints at the Biden connection to the Nord Stream pipeline damage. Fox News host Tucker Carlson suggested that President Joe Biden is responsible for the damage to the Russian-owned Nord Stream pipeline, claiming the president vowed to blow up the pipelines earlier this year. He didn't actually say blow up, but he did vow to stop them. Neither of the Nord Stream pipelines, which were designed to deliver natural gas from Russia to Germany, were operational when they experienced major leaks into the Baltic Sea on Monday. Leaders in Norway, Sweden, and Denmark have all concluded that they were most likely a result of sabotage or another deliberate action, while seismologists have said the leaks were preceded by explosions. While the causes of the explosions and damage to the pipeline have not yet been determined, we have suggested that Biden or Russian President Vladimir Putin could be responsible. During the Tuesday night broadcast of the show Tucker Carlson Tonight, the Fox News host disseminated the idea that Putin was behind the leaks before implying that it could be Biden. And again, this is all speculation, but the Vladimir Putin thing doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If you are Vladimir Putin, you would have to be a suicidal moron to blow up your own energy pipeline. That's one thing you would never do, Carlson said. Okay, I might have misread earlier. So yeah, again, it doesn't make sense to me either. Why would you blow up your own pipeline? That is one thing you would never do. Natural gas pipelines are the main source of power and wealth, and most critically, your leverage over other countries. Again, yeah, so by blowing up this pipeline, like I read earlier, they had actually cut off the gas flow to European countries. And one of the things they were doing was saying, if you work with us, you cooperate, we'll turn the gas back on. Well, now that these pipelines are gone, you've lost your main bargaining chip. So again, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me why Russia would perpetrate this attack. Blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline does not help Vladimir Putin, he added. He would not do that. Why would he? But that doesn't even matter to other countries who would consider doing it. They would consider it, and we know they have considered it because at least one of them has said so publicly. Carlson played a clip of Biden speaking to the pipelines less than 3 weeks before Russia invaded Ukraine on February 24th. The president said the U.S. would make sure to put it into the Nord Stream 2 pipeline if Russian invasion moved forward. If Russia invades, there will no longer be a Nord Stream 2 pipeline, Biden said during a joint press conference with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. Scholz? Joint press conference with German Chancellor on February 7th. We'll bring an end to it. So again, I was talking about the video from Biden, and let's take a look at this really quick. So this is actually what's been going around. This has been making the rounds on social media, and this is why a lot of people are believing that the West might have actually been involved. So let's listen to what President Biden has to say.
If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
How will you do that?
Watch his face here. Watch how he smirks a little bit.
Exactly. Since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control.
We will, I promise you, we'll be able to do it.
The little smirk there is actually semi-terrifying, but that is really the main driving force of why everyone believes the West, or even just America, was responsible for the sabotage of the Nord Stream pipeline. On top of the fact that they're now unveiling this new pipeline that I was talking about earlier, especially since now they're unveiling this new pipeline, which is taking, I believe it's a long-awaited Baltic pipeline that will bring Norwegian gas to Poland in an effort to boost European energy independence from Moscow. So again, this is another pipeline that's being unveiled right when this Nord pipeline has been damaged, and it kind of stands to reason that most likely the West or Western countries were involved somehow in this sabotage. So back to Tucker Carlson. Carlson went on to say that Biden could be guilty of environmental terrorism and said that the president was now the only person in his administration to suggest attacking the Nord Stream 2. He cited comments from the State Department official Victoria Nuland, who said January the pipeline would not move forward if Russia invaded Ukraine, one way or another. Looking back on these words seemed chilling 8 months later, Carlson said, as natural gas pours into the Baltic Sea and in the atmosphere. Could the Biden administration really do something like this? And I believe they would. I have no doubt in my mind that the Biden administration could do something like this. Now, so NATO's getting involved too. They're pretty much outright saying there's no way this was an accident. It had to be some form of sabotage. So NATO's Secretary General said the leaks to the Nord Stream pipeline sending natural gas from Russia to Europe were a result of sabotage. Discussing the sabotage on the Nord Stream pipelines with Defense Minister Morten Rodofsky, NATO's Secretary General said the leaks to the Nord Stream pipeline sending natural gas from Russia to Europe were a result of sabotage. Discussing the sabotage on the Nord Stream pipeline with Defense Minister Morten Badskov, we addressed the protection of the criminal infrastructure. We addressed the protection of critical infrastructure into NATO countries. So this is, NATO is obviously pissed off about this because that's one of their main forms of natural gas into the European countries, and this is right before winter, which is going to make living pretty difficult for a lot of people in Europe. So this is going to be a dark winter ahead for sure. Some speculated that Russia was behind the attack on its own pipeline. The attack was probably premeditated and planned for several weeks before it occurred. The anonymous British military told the Times of London that it is not some casual terrorist act. It has to be a government, said Michael Clark, a British military expert. Privately, everyone is convinced this is a Kremlin-inspired piece of sabotage. Spokesman said for the governments of Ukraine and Poland agreed that Russia was behind the attack. So Ukraine and Poland are now full on saying that Russia is actually, in fact, behind this attack. I'm just going to say it again. It doesn't make sense. The only country that's outwardly saying we're going to put a stop to this is the U.S. and Biden saying it on national TV. Why would you perform a false flag on your own pipeline, which is only bringing you money and leverage and bargaining chip right before winter? I don't see an upside. You're not going to whip your base into a frenzy. You're not going to get more morale from your own troops. It's just going to be one more drop in the pan of everything else that's going on. So, and I'm not saying that this is a small deal. Obviously, that's a lot of natural gas leaking into the environment, and that's not good. But the fact that everyone is saying this is Russia, 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 I think that's propaganda. I think it just doesn't make sense to the normal person looking at it and going, why would you destroy your own pipeline? That's bringing in finance and it's leverage. It doesn't make sense. So, a lot of people are saying this is sabotage. Well, everyone wants to blame Russia. Of course, Ukraine is going to blame Russia because they're at war with them. But a lot of people are saying that this is premeditated because U.S. warned European allies this summer that the Nord Stream pipeline could be attacked. And I mean, what's the best way to take focus off of yourself? Hey, come out and say, hey, I warned you this was going to happen. It couldn't have been me. I had intelligence that said this was going to happen. We tried to warn you. Now, I think that might be a kind of a false flag in a way, saying, oh, no. We tried to warn you this was going to happen. And this seems to happen before every major event. The FBI may have known about 9/11. They may have known about the bombing on the marathon a few years ago. This is just a recurring theme that happens over and over again. So for me, the U.S. being involved in this doesn't seem like a stretch. It actually just seems like the only logical reasoning. The U.S. warned several European allies over the summer, including Germany, that the Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines could face threats or even be attacked, according to two people familiar with the intelligence and warnings. The warnings were based on U.S. intelligence assessments that were very vague, the people said. It was not clear from the warnings who might be responsible for any attack on the pipeline or when they might occur. The CIA declined to comment. Oh, wow, interesting. On Monday, leaks were discovered in the pipelines, prompting investigation by European authorities to determine how powerful underwater explosions had occurred just before the pipelines burst in several places. European officials have not yet publicly identified the culprit. The U.S., European, and Ukrainian officials have been warning for months, however, that critical infrastructure, not only in Ukraine but also in U.S. and Europe, could be targeted by Russia as part of its war on Ukraine. Like I said at the very beginning of this video, none of this is concrete yet, and it's very unlikely that we can actually, discern who did this without some kind of, I don't even know how you would investigate that. How are you going to lift fingerprints underwater? It doesn't seem very possible. So we probably will never know who was actually responsible for this incident, but I'm pretty sure Russia is going to be blamed for it like they already are being. So, like I said, this is all speculation. We're going to have to wait and see how this plays out. Maybe we'll get answers. I don't believe we will, but now more than ever, you got to keep your eyes open, your ears to the ground, try to stay safe. Send prayers out to Florida. Hopefully everyone down there is doing good and they managed to ride out the storm, or they were prepared or got out in time. But anyway, if anything comes up new about this Nord Stream pipeline, I'll make an update video and try to let you guys in. But like I said, I don't think we're going to see anything new come out of this one. So that's it for me today, guys. I appreciate you guys coming out and hanging out with me. Like I said, if you're new to the channel, please hit the like, subscribe button, share it with your friends. Anything helps. It makes Mr. Potato very happy. Anyway, that's it for me today, guys. You guys have a good night. Stay safe out there.